What are the tools that we need to apply an epoxy floor? This is the subject of today's video, and I'm going to start you with this picture. As you see here, someone is, this is a floor we did a few years ago on a magenta floor, and he's wearing spiked shoes and he's using a spiked roller to eliminate the bubbles inside the epoxy before it cures. So in this video, I'm going to focus on tools. I am not focusing on equipment. I don't want to confuse you with too much information. So we're talking about the tools today. I'm going to start with this, look at this picture here. This is a team. We were applying a self-leveling floor. The guy on the right in the gray t-shirt and the shorts, that's actually me. Occasionally I put on the spiked shoes myself. So as you can see here, we've got some people wearing spiked shoes and doing the rolling of the epoxy. You've got some people with trowels spreading out the epoxy, and you've also got some people helping out. And what you can't see in this picture is there's someone mixing the epoxy as well. So let's start with the tools. The first tool I'm going to talk about are squeegees and trowels. And we use these to spread out product on the floor. Here we see a picture of someone who, this was a self-leveling floor, so he's pouring the epoxy and he's spreading out the epoxy on the floor with a squeegee. Now, squeegees can come in two forms. This is a flat squeegee. And in case you're wondering, I'm going to post links at the end of the video at the bottom with where you can actually find these tools. So here, this is a flat squeegee. And this is one with a notched trowel, we call it. The difference is that you can use a flat one when you want to apply a thin layer of epoxy. And if you want to apply a thicker layer, like a self-leveling, like a thicker build of an epoxy, you used a notched trowel. And you can pick the size of the teeth, the notches, so you can decide how thick you want the floor to be. So choosing the right squeegee, it depends on the thickness you want to achieve in epoxy flooring. This is a big subject, but I'm just giving an indication what you can do by selecting the right type of squeegee. You spread out the product, and then you use a roller to roll the product and to even it out. And you have two types of rollers, and there's a lot of confusion in this subject. One is paint rollers, where we just use a classic paint roller, and we use those for thin finishes. In this case, someone is applying a primer with a paint roller. And the second case are spiked rollers. Spiked rollers are the ones that look like little porcupines. They're not woolly rollers. They have little spikes in them. Here is a picture of someone back rolling. In this picture, they used a proper roller. So this was a thin film coat where they used a proper roller to make the floor coating homogeneous and even out any roller marks and any trowel marks. And in this second example, here we see someone applying using a spiked roller, because this was a self-leveling floor, so there was a bigger thickness. And the reason why we need spiked rollers for self-leveling floors is because when you have a larger thickness, you tend to get bubbles, little bubbles that emerge, and you want a spiked roller that will, one, help eliminate the bubbles, but it also helps kind of even out the product and make sure there's been an even distribution of the product throughout the floor. And now I'm going to go into spiked shoes, but let me just make one more point about spiked rollers, and that is they come in various widths and sizes. You want, for small rooms and to access walls, narrow rollers so you can go all the way to the wall. And then you want bigger rollers if you've got bigger surfaces. Beware, sometimes you can put a really big roller, and the problem with big rollers is like a really wide, like over 1/2 meter wide. And the problem is if your floor is uneven, that roller will not work properly. So you don't want to go for very, very wide rollers. Right, now let's go to spiked shoes. And spiked shoes are important. And the reason they're important is because obviously you can step on the wet floor before it's cured. One mistake many contractors make, especially newbies, is they're kind of lazy. They don't really want to put on the spiked shoes. So they kind of spread out the product. They use a roller to even it out, and then they kind of move progressively along the floor. The mistake here is that often you can't see things. You might get a bubble emerging after 15 minutes. But if you don't have the spiked shoes to step on the floor, to actually go there and access it and eliminate those bubbles, you won't be able to see it. So it's very important that you always have spiked shoes with you and that you can always access the whole floor. So do not underestimate the importance of spiked shoes. And before I go on, if you could take a moment and subscribe if you haven't already, this really helps me continue bringing out videos, and it's YouTube will just show my videos more if I have more subscribers. So thank you very much. Now, we went through the tools. Now let's look at electrical mixers. Electrical mixers are very important in floor coatings because most cases floor coatings like epoxies and polyurethanes are two-component, and you must mix them with an electrical mixer. Some people think they can do it by hand. Please, unless it's a very small quantity like 1 or 2 kilos, do not try mixing by hand. You need to use an electrical mixer so you have a uniform mix. Also, you should use an adjustable speed mixer. One mistake people make is they put on the highest speed and the most powerful speed because they want to get done really quickly. Now, with epoxies, you need to mix it slowly. So you want to put a slow speed in, because if you mix it quickly, you're going to get lots of bubbling inside the epoxy, and then good luck in trying to get that out. So do not use a fast mixer. Use a slow mixer, and that's why you should get a mixer that has adjustable speeds. Another tool you're going to need are handheld grinders. Again, I'm not going to talk about equipment in this video, but I am going to talk about little tools like grinders. Angle grinders and concrete grinders, small ones, are very useful. Like in this picture here, there was an area that needed more grinding, and with a little concrete grinder we took care of it. They're also great for getting to the corners. Another great thing with angle grinders is you can put cutting discs on them, because often when you go to a floor that's been used before, you might find nails sticking out, you might find old screws sticking out from various, maybe there was some machine had been put in place there in the past. So by having an angle grinder, you can just cut these off. You can cut any problems you might find from the existing floor. And now I also have a list of other tools you're going to need. And one is you're going to need paintbrushes for the edges, for taking care of little jobs. You don't want to use trowels all the time, and especially if you're using rollers, you want to have a paintbrush for the edges. You're going to need small spatulas for all sorts of reasons, whether you have to patch up a crack or a hole, or you just need to sort of remove some stuck piece of dirt. Small spatulas are great. Scrapers serve a very similar purpose. I mentioned the importance of being able to cut something, so cutting discs adjusted on an angle grinder are also important. Brooms are very important. Not just a vacuum cleaner, but you also need brooms. Brooms that will just help you pick up local dust, especially if you're on one of those project sites with lots of dust. You definitely want to be collecting most of the dust with brooms and then use a vacuum. And finally, don't forget masks, especially if a lot of dust is being generated, and also the fumes from the epoxy. So you want to have suitable masks for dust and fumes. And another important point, we often go on construction sites, and if they are new and they haven't fitted in proper wiring yet and lighting hasn't been put in place, you need to have your own lighting with you. This is very important because with epoxies, if you work in a dark environment, you can be easily fooled, and then the lights will come on one day and the floor will not look like the way you want it to. So very, very important, if you do not have good lighting, you must bring your own lighting and make sure that you have good access. Anyway, I'm going to post a bunch of links below for these products where you can find them. I'm also going to post some more videos. I'm going to post a video on mixing. I'm going to post a video on other subjects that I think are important related to our tools. I'm going to post a link to a spiked roller video so you can learn more about spiked roller. Don't forget, we have a really good online course where we go through all these things in detail, and we talk about the importance of selecting the right trowel and the importance how to go about applying an epoxy floor in all the different stages, and you can learn more about thicknesses there and systems. So check out our online course. Thank you very much for watching, and check out these videos.